Panther Nation, the C3 podcast, brought to you by CarolinaCatChronicles.com.
I had fun, man. Just out, you guys joking. We working at the same time. Putting the work in as a team. Like I said, I'm just glad to be with the guys.
My favorite night of the week.
We're gonna go out there and we're playing to win. We're not out here just to show up. We're out here to win.
I don't want guys that want to win, because really, who doesn't? Nobody wants to win. Everybody wants to win. I want players that hate to win.
This embodies everything that we are as a team, as an organization. Our motto is keep pounding, and that's what we do. You know what I'm saying?
Panther fans, Tony Dunn here, a.k.a. The Professor. And it's Tuesday night, where we, on the C3 Carolina Panthers podcast, chop up the latest Panthers news and opinions from the fan perspective. I do it each and every week with my best homeboys, Joe Riolano and Mel Mayock. Joey, what is up, my man?
Oh, Tony, I am doing well. Excited to be here on this Tuesday night to talk about our Carolina Panthers and this wild and wacky free agent tampering period we've been dealing with so far.
Mel Mayock's back. How are you, my friend?
What's up, Professor? I am back. It's my favorite night of the week, as you know. Happy to be here, man. Lots going on. Lots to talk about tonight.
All right, fantastic. Tonight's show is... What is tonight's show? Tonight's show is Waiting on Father Free Agency, which begins technically tomorrow, but all the news is already breaking. We'll be talking about the most recent news, which is the Panthers are set to sign Brashaud Breeland to a 3-year contract. We'll get into those details as we go, and that's a big addition to the Panthers secondary, as well as Norwell is now with the Jacksonville Jaguars, Jonathan Stewart with the Giants. We'll talk about those, and Starr is gone too. We'll talk about those departures. And we'll talk about, we got a special guest tonight. Clip Brock from Pirate Radio, 1250, is going to come on. I just pre-recorded a quick segment. He is a big Redskins fan, so he's going to give us a little insight on the Breeland signing and what we may be getting. So, guys, we're going to get that. We're going to feature your cat calls. The number to the cat calls line is 252-228-5098. We appreciate everybody who's in the chat room right now. And on Facebook, Periscope, go ahead and smash that like button, smash that thumbs up button, hit subscribe, and this is what we need, folks. We need you to do us a solid, and that is share this show with one friend. If you feel frisky, 2 friends. But just share the show with a friend. We appreciate it. We are getting more and more subscribers each and every week. We are over 800 subscribers on YouTube. We got to get to 1,000 by the beginning of the season. That's our goal. And why don't you surprise us, and let's do it by training camp. You can subscribe on iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn Radio. We appreciate all that. And follow us on Twitter at @cat_chronicles. Let's rock and roll, guys. Tonight's show is Waiting on Father Free Agency because, guys, you heard all this news left and right about deals coming out, trades happening, this and that, and the Panthers, all we heard was crickets, crickets, crickets. And, there's some anxiety that surrounds that. But have we made the trade for Daryl Worley by the last week's show?
Was it the day after?
I feel like, I don't remember if we talked about it, but since that has happened, or since our last show, the Panthers traded Daryl Worley for Torrey Smith, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Torrey Smith, who is in the final year of his contract, who has a cap hit of $5 million, and you get a veteran wide receiver that's added to the group who has some downfield speed. A 4.34 guy in his prime. I don't know if he's still there, but he's still a speedster. He still showed some decent production, 400 yards in a very crowded wide receiver group.
Yeah, he did not get a lot of targets there in Philly. But have you noticed, Professor, Wednesdays tends to be a huge news day in the Panther cycle.
It does. It does. Or at least for right now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we got that. That's the one deal. But today's, I guess, the biggest news right now, and we'll talk about this first. The Panthers are expected to sign cornerback Brashaud Breeland. There's no R's in it. Brashaud Breeland, who was a corner with the Redskins, and he's going to be reportedly signing, I believe I saw a 3-year deal, $24 million overall, $11 million in guarantees. That's reported by, I think, Mike Garofalo. All right. So, guys, the Panthers, their first and only free agent acquisition to this point is a cornerback and a much-needed addition. Initial impressions of Brashaud Breeland.
Well, let me say, go ahead, Joe.
He's a Clemson product. He played for the Tigers.
Yep, grew up in South Carolina.
Mm-hmm. I like what he can bring to us. I think he's going to fit our system pretty well. I'm happy with this move. It didn't break the bank, and I think we got ourselves a solid player here. And I think it is going to be a bit of an upgrade over Worley. Just in the fact that he is seasoned. You know, he's not that rookie. And he's not your shutdown corner. But now I think we have two legit corners. Two guys, big guys that can hang with some of these receivers here in the NFC South.
I totally agree. I mean, he's 6 feet tall. He's not known for being fast, but he is known for having quick feet and being very athletic, a big hitter. He's smart. He's going to be in the right position. He's what we need in the more zone type of defense that we tend to run.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, Josh Norman is not a blazing fast guy. He was a 4.6 type of a guy, but his instincts, his size, his twitchiness is something that made him successful here, and that's the same thing we're getting in Breeland. So, I think it's a huge upgrade over Worley, actually. So I think it's very solid. Now, if we could pair him with some good, solid safeties, then we're in business.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think this is a good move by the Carolina Panthers and a much needed move. One of the things I like about this, and like you guys pointed out, is that I feel like we have a defined group of corners now. Right. Rather than, well, let's see how these guys work and we'll figure something out. Is that the expectation is that these guys are going to play, and what we're really going to see is Bradbury and Breeland on the outside, and the questions are really surrounding Cornelder, Captain Munnerlyn, and potential reboot of Zach Sanchez at the slot. That's where you're going to be looking to see the competition unfold, I think.
It may be a draft pick or two.
Yeah.
I don't know that we're done there.
I hope it's at safety.
Yeah, we
right.
need the safety.
I feel good with a pair of young guys like this for a little while. You got Bradbury.
You have to have depth, though. One of them goes down, you got to have somebody.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But
I mean, the thing for me though is that rookie depth ain't that good usually.
That's a good point.
Is that I'd rather have a guy who has a little experience under his belt that can come in and be serviceable in knowing how to prepare and do some things like that. Speaking of a guy like, go ahead, Joe.
I was going to ask about Parker from Kansas City. He hasn't signed anywhere yet. The safety, former Panther. I think it's Ron Parker.
Yes, that is right, and there is some ties. I'm not familiar with him when it comes to the Panthers.
I know he was here, but that's all I know. I don't remember that he was here. I mean, that was 5 years ago.
I think he was here for a short while, and in between the time he left here and now, he's managed to work his way to a safe starting position.
He was with Kansas City for 5 years, and
he started 4 years on Kansas City defense. He's 30 years old, and
he was a cap casualty.
Yeah, they say $5 million. Is that he played college football for Newberry?
That's in South Carolina.
Yeah. So I think he may have been a practice squad guy for the
He
Panthers.
was.
I'm not.
He was. He was.
Okay. Yeah. Is that? I think another name there is Cersei. He's available. I think that you might want to kick the tires on somebody like that. He's still got. He's not too old at this point in his career. You do. One of the things though that maybe we're underestimating is how much this team believes in Jarris Bird, maybe. And that maybe he turned out to be a serviceable guy.
I hope they're not putting all their eggs in that basket.
No, me too. Me too.
He's depth.
Yeah. And for depth purposes, I say okay. But if you're counting on him to come and start 16 games, I'm worried. Let me run this by you guys. Mel, I'm going to ask you specifically because I know you're going to be a little more with it when it comes to this.
Tony says, doubt that, but all right. Go ahead.
The 24th pick, would there be somebody there that we could even consider using the 24th pick on a safety?
Yeah, there are some out there for sure. And one guy that I like that some people are going to think it may be a little high for him, but he's somebody that I really am high on, is Ronnie Harrison out of Alabama.
I like that pick.
Yeah.
I like that pick at 24 too.
I do too.
I don't mind that one bit because you need a guy. I think he can play strong safety immediately.
Mm-hmm. You think he's there like that? I mean, where he can come in, go to a training camp, OTAs, all that stuff, and start at week 1?
I think so, definitely. I mean, with the depth that the Panthers have, he would be our best safety day 1.
As long as you didn't ask him to do too much in coverage. You know, if you didn't put too much responsibility on him to line up against receivers, he seems like a guy that is a down in the box.
I've seen him make some plays too. I mean, he is all over the field. He is somebody. You watch some Alabama games and you hear his name a lot. He's got a nose for. He's one of those guys that always seems to be around the football. And you can't teach that. It's just a knack that, they seem to be in the right place at the right time.
Yeah, and and the other thing that's kind of disappointing about him, it's not disappointing about him, I guess, that overshadowed him is that he had to play with Minkah Fitzpatrick, who is you look
he's a
pedestrian.
top 5 pick. Yeah.
You look pedestrian beside him. He's projected in top 1 or 2 rounds. He did not run the 40, it looks like, at the combine.
I think he had a little bit of a tweaked hamstring or something to that effect. He's going to run at his pro day.
They've already had their pro day.
Oh, they did?
Mm-hmm. They were the first team that had their pro day.
Oh, did not know that.
Okay, here, actually, let's continue on the Brashaud Breeland conversation. I'm going to bring in Clip Brock right now from Pirate Radio, and let's see what Clip's resident Redskins pessimist. So here's a little Clip Brock on Brashaud Breeland. All right, let's welcome in Clip Brock, the host of the Sports Bar on Pirate Radio 1250. It's my turn to ask the questions, Clip. What's up, my man?
What's up, Professor Don? How you doing, buddy?
I'm fantastic, man. I join Clip every Friday on the Sports Bar, and he's gracious enough to put up with me all year. So I've asked him to come on and talk a little Redskins and Brashaud Breeland because the Panthers have reportedly signed Breeland to a 3-year, $24 million deal with $11 million in guarantees. Clip, is there anyone left in the Redskins secondary?
I think we've got the corpse of D'Angelo Hall still back there somewhere. That might be about it. It's not looking good. It seems like I'm watching everybody get better and improve their teams, and free agency hasn't even started yet. But it is a little nerve-wracking to know that another one of our guys who's a younger player, kind of going into his prime. Although we'll talk about him. I don't know if he peaked early, but it's a little nervous, Tony, looking at the secondary right now from our guys.
Yeah, Josh Norman's still back there, but reportedly could be a casualty or a release.
Right.
So I saw this news. I've been at work all day, and this is what has popped off. And Breeland is a player out of Clemson, a fourth-year player, fourth-round pick, 5'10", 5'11", 6 foot, 200 pounds. Played a lot. Tell us a little bit about his game, because he seems like he's pretty active in pass defense. 19 passes defended last year. Really consistent in that area.
Yeah, and I would call him solid. Like, cornerback is such a volatile position because guy makes a play and you think you got a good one back there, and then the next play gets burned. So I guess that's why there's so few lockdown corners, not only now but in NFL history. But Breeland really came on his rookie year, and like you said, he's a fourth-round pick. I think one of the things with Breeland is he was too good too early and got us all excited. There was a particular game, I mentioned D'Angelo Hall. I was right around the time his career kind of started coming to an end with an injury. But I think it was his rookie year, and he shut down Des Bryant, and those Redskins fans thought we had a gem in Breeland. And I don't know, man. He kind of plateaued. And then there was that weird thing when Norman did come in, and Breeland got roasted week 1 by Antonio Brown, and they wouldn't put Norman on the other side. And I think Breeland lost some confidence during the beginning of that season because everybody was talking about Josh Norman and talking about how bad Breeland was. So, but again, I think he's a very solid cornerback. He's a physical guy. I think he's fun to watch because he'll talk a little bit. Kind of your typical corner, I guess, but he's not afraid to be physical. I think you guys will like him in Carolina.
Does he play on the one thing I was reading about just briefly, and everybody goes to Pro Football Focus as the Bible of how we should evaluate any player, and they said he played in the slot a good amount, but it seems like just where did you see him a lot? Was he on the outside? I mean, you said he's going up against Antonio Brown. That sounds like the outside to me.
Yeah, and I mean the Redskins top slot guy, which by the way we lost him too to Kansas City, Virginia Tech kid Fuller, but he played the outside, and he was, like I said, he was guard number 1 as early as his rookie year in 2014, and then a couple seasons ago, they had him on the outside and Josh Norman on the other side. So, I mean, I guess he can do it all, but if you need a guy that can play on the outside, he certainly can do it, and he's done it, I would say, the majority of his pro career.
Fantastic. All right, just last thing is you guys signed Paul Richardson. I've been saying that Paul Richardson. Yeah, exactly. I've been telling. Now, this was a name that a lot of Panther fans had been throwing out there, but I think he's fool's gold. I don't think he's going to be bad. I just don't think he's going to be transformative.
I mean, I think fool's gold is too much. I don't think he's anything's gold. Anybody's gold.
Well, he's in red and gold now.
He's copper.
It's burgundy, sir. And look, I'm probably a bad guy to talk to about this. I'm so negative on the team. I finally decided to get excited about a receiver last year. I thought Terrell Pryor was going to be the real deal. He was not. But the Redskins, we talked about it on the show, Tony, that the Redskins they still need a number 1, and certainly Richardson's not going to be that, but I do like his speed. He's showing he can make the big play. I hope he can stay on the field, stay healthy, and be consistent, because I do like Crowder. We'll see if Jordan Reed can stay on the field. I'm not.
Yeah, you can't. Yeah, you can't get excited about that.
Yeah, and really, I guess it comes down to Josh Dotson, and does he turn into what we think he might can? So I think he's a good piece. The problem is, I don't know. He'd be a good piece if we already had a number 1, a 2, and a slot, I feel like. But
Yeah, he could be a solid too. You know who he reminds me of? He reminds me of somebody like one of those Detroit receivers. Is that they're just good? They're just pretty darn good, but not great.
Yeah, and I feel like we need, which hell, I guess every fan of every team could say that, but we'd love, and I'm sure the Panthers fans could say that they need a number one. But no, yeah, I agree with you. He's kind of like a good part to already good receiving core. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
If he's the standout guy, I don't know how good that is for your offense.
Yeah, well, you guys have a lot to figure out. Alex Smith has got his work cut out for him this year. But, all right, guys, Clip, thanks a lot, man. I'll check you out tomorrow to get in on the sports bar. A little action, talk a little Panthers, and more free agency tomorrow, man.
Yeah, I love, as you know, Tony, I usually don't like talking about the Redskins, so this has been awkward for me. I look forward to asking you questions about the Panthers later.
Fantastic. All right, that's Clip Brock, Pirate Radio 1250. Catch him every day, 3 to 5 on the Sports Bar. All right, guys, that's Clip Brock, man, there bringing you a little take on Brashaud Breeland. And really, I think that's a pretty safe analysis. Makes you feel good.
Well, it's also relieving to hear that the Panther fans are not the only ones that are always negative on their team. So, that was
well, I think that Redskins fans take that to a different level at some point. And with the turmoil that they've faced since the 80s, since they lost Norv Turner, really, to be honest, is that they had that 1 year with Joe Gibbs that they were pretty good, maybe 1 year with Shanahan. But all right, so Breeland, that's the Breeland talk. Let's talk about some other things. Big names went today that the Carolina Panthers fans have been clamoring for, which were pipe dreams to begin with. You don't want to say that. You want to hope that there's some way that your team might surprise you and go and make a move and do something. Sammy Watkins was a name that a lot of people wanted, as well as Allen Robinson. Both of those signed $50 million deals. One is coming off a 600. Sammy Watkins is coming off a 600-yard season, and he
was the number 3 wide receiver on his team last year.
Yeah, and signed a $16 million. He's getting paid $16 million a year.
That is unbelievable, and I cannot believe people were mad that we didn't do that.
You know, it's funny to me how these mediocre receivers are getting paid so much money.
Yeah.
Remember a couple of years ago when Mike Wallace was coming out as a free agent, and he was like the top wide receiver that was available?
Yeah, he got paid like $50 million like in 2008.
Like, oh my God, it's so not worth it.
Right.
But just because of the market, he got that much money. I think we're seeing that again this year, but it's even worse.
I agree, man.
There's no way in the world Richardson should have got that kind of money. No way.
Now, I could potentially argue that Robinson was worth that.
Yes, I can agree with that. I can agree with that.
Yeah, young player coming off of ACL, if you have a lot of faith. Richardson, his deal is 5 years, right? And it says million? 20 million guaranteed.
Yeah, I think it was
40 million.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a big. I mean, that's a. I mean, that's
$8 million a year.
Yeah, that's a big. I mean, but that's not under. That's not. I don't think it's ridiculous. His is so ridiculous. I do find Sammy Watkins. I thought Sammy Watkins was going to be like an $11 million player.
Right.
You know what's crazy to me is you look at Kansas City. They get rid of their quarterback, and they've got a quarterback on a rookie salary scale. They get rid of Tamba Hali, who was a $12 million casualty cut. They get rid of their safety that in Parker, who we perhaps will talk about later, but he's a safety that I know Joe has his eye on, and I'd like to see him come back too. Save $5 million there, so you're getting rid of your $20 million quarterback. You're getting rid of your $12 million defensive tackle. You're getting rid of your $5 million safety. And then you go spend $16 million on a wide receiver who's had injury issues. Now, he's a good player, but he's had serious foot issues, and he was the third best wide receiver on the Rams last year.
600-yard season?
Yeah, right. That's ridiculous.
I do think there is something to be said that he could, in that offense, that's a really fast offense right now. With Tyreek Hill, who's the other guy that they got? Kareem Hunt. And Sammy Watkins.
And Kelsey.
Yeah, I mean, those guys take it to the house on any play, potentially.
But you're paying $16 million for potential. I mean, it's a lot of $16
million for a guy who had 600 yards last season. I think he did have 8 touchdowns.
That's the facts. That's the facts. 600-something yards. I mean, to me, that's the type of money you should pay Antonio Brown that kind of money.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. Albert, what about Albert Wilson? He is coming from Kansas City. He signed with the Dolphins. 3-year deal, $24 million. I'm trying to think if there's anybody else that, if we saw anything else that stood out as, I guess here, you want to talk about some big numbers. The Titans spent it today, signing Malcolm Butler to a 5-year, $61 million deal.
Crazy.
I'm glad to see he did not go to New Orleans.
$30 million guaranteed. That's a lot for a guy that's a ton of money right there. They also, I just got word that they are signing Dion Lewis too, the Titans. So, there's some names there. I think when it comes to the Carolina Panthers, though, let's get back to this, is that Norwell, and someone just brought this up in the YouTube chat room, is Norwell went to the Jacksonville Jaguars, who now is the second highest paid, or like the third highest paid, like offensive lineman in the league, or some crazy. I don't know if it's that much. He is the highest paid guard at the point. He got $30 million guaranteed. You really see that team, talk about investing in Leonard Fournette. They are just going to smash teams. Yeah. He could carry the ball for like 500 times this year.
Oh, yeah. That's very reasonable.
I would take him very high in next year's fantasy football draft.
Yes. I think they are going to be a ground and pound offense next year.
Tom Coughlin all over it.
And it sounds like Marquise Lee is going to be staying with them.
So, he re-signed today. Yep. Which I had my eye on him. I thought he'd be a nice compliment to the Panthers receiving corps, but he's another player that didn't tend to stay healthy, though.
Right.
Yeah. You've got also last bit of two more pieces related to the Carolina Panthers departures. Star Latulele goes to
Buffalo.
Carolina Panther Bills in New York.
Yep. Joining his former defensive coordinator and Sean McDermott, who's head coach out there. And he had indicated that he was going to be testing free agency. It sounded like he wasn't really interested in coming back to Carolina. I think he understood that, much like Norwell, that they had allocated the money to KK, and you weren't going to be able to. He wasn't going to maximize what he could get in Carolina. Right. So I think that was expected. I think these are all expected departures. Jonathan Stewart is back with Mike Shula, Dave Gettleman. Now he's in New York. Really not a terrible fit for New York. Is that
did he sign with them? I didn't see that. I know he was in Detroit.
Yeah, he has decided to go with the G-Men, sounds like.
Oh, okay. All right.
And not a terrible signing by them. And that in the way of that, one of the things they haven't had is any consistency at that position. And you're going to get a guy
they're going to continue to not get consistency. He's going to be injured.
No,
Right.
you're going to get 3 yards. You're going to get 3 yards.
If you need 1 yard, he'll give you 3. If you need 5, he'll give you 3.
I think
he's gonna be a committee back, like he was here. So I think
he's short yardage, pass protection potentially, opportunities, and a guy that's there in case nobody else pans out.
Boy, if I'm them, I'm taking Saquon Barkley if he's there at 2. Good grief.
He better not be there at 2.
Cleveland better
Darren
not.
Browns better pick him.
Yeah.
I am completely against the Josh Norris predicament of the Browns got to draft a quarterback at 1.
Totally agree.
I think they have to.
You think they have to what?
Go get their guy. I don't think Tyrod Taylor's the answer to their
But they got
team.
the 4th pick.
Yeah, I know, but if they have a quarterback that they like, if there's a quarterback that they like and they want to take, they need to go get him and make sure they get him at 1 because he may not.
Joey had a change of heart, Mel. He's flip and flopping, dude.
For me, I would be all on the Baker Mayfield bandwagon if I were the Browns.
I think they should get Barkley at 4.
Now, Barkley will not be there at 4.
Well, if he's not there, I still think they got to get their quarterback, man.
Man, they need to go get Josh Rosen at 4.
I think they need to trade back and get Baker Mayfield at like 10.
Oh, gosh. All right, well, we're going to disagree. We talked about this last week. Anything else when it comes to departure? Okay, so there's what's left in free agency. Actually, there was one thing. So a lot of people are saying they're surprised that Norwell didn't sign with the Giants. All indications said that they were going to be paying him whatever he wants. And
I'm surprised too.
I think this tells you that he believes there's higher prospects with Jacksonville right now.
I think that may have had something to do with it, and the fact that Florida has no state income tax.
That's a great point.
That's a part of it.
Oh yeah, great point.
Yeah, that does help a ton. All right, so
who would you rather block for if you're Norwell? Right, I mean Leonard Fournette or
again.
Right.
What do we think about what's left for the Panthers to do in free agency?
Well, this is a good time, I think, to bring up that, Panther Nation, this is not the time of year where you just go to the grocery store and you just stock up on every available piece of meat that's out there, right? I mean, you don't win Super Bowls in March in the free agency market.
Right.
You got to pick your shots. That's a way that you get into salary cap hell, is to just go out there and throw money at everything. I mean, you got to respect the Panthers sitting back and taking measured shots. You build through the draft and you fill needs through free agency. So you get the tier 2, tier 3 solid veterans like this Parker, the safety out of Kansas City, someone like that, or like a Dante Moncrief at wide receiver, somebody who isn't earth-shattering. I don't think you go after the Sammy Watkins for $16 million. I think you take your shots and you get good, solid, measured veterans like we've done in recent years, right? I think Gettleman did a pretty good job of going out and getting, these types of mid-level free agents instead of the big splashes.
What about DeNorris? See, I think this is what I think we should do is I think we should sign a DeNorris Cersei and Dante Moncrief and call it a day. And be done in free agency, or because I guess are there any real options? Because we really could use a defensive end, and that's maybe another running back. Those are all things I think that the running back potentially could be picked up in the draft, and some people are saying that I've heard. What's really funny is all of a sudden like people within the Panthers organization and in the media are picking up and starting to support people like Damiere Byrd and Cameron Artis-Payne. Why you guys are just jumping on my bandwagon? There ain't no room on this bandwagon for you bandwagoners. Is that these are my guys. These are my guys. Stay away. But I heard that Joe Person this morning talking about that they think that Marty Herney is ready, that they could potentially be giving Cameron Artis-Payne his shot. And they believe that, maybe they believe it. I can't believe that. I just don't believe it. But I'd like to see Dante Moncrief and a safety added.
Well, something that's interesting to me is you listen at the combine, the interviews with Coach Rivera and with Marty. They're talking about they're feeling the pressure a little bit. You got an unknown new owner coming in, and you got to show that you know what you're doing. So to me, I would find it hard to believe that they're going to put their eggs in the Cameron Artis-Payne basket. I think, hey, he'll get his shot at some competition for some depth, but man, I mean, they're going to have to do something in the draft. If they don't get somebody like Jeremy Hill in free agency, they're going to have to go after and get somebody, even if it's a mid-round guy like Scarborough out of Alabama, big load. It's a deep running back draft this year, so I expect at least one more running back to be added before training camp, probably two.
All right, so some conversation has been going in the chat room about how Gettleman has, a lot of this is really problematic, problems left by Gettleman. And while Dave, we were very big Dave Gettleman supporters on this show throughout his tenure. And I think that the 2016 year was a year that shook some of our confidence, and we thought that potentially that things were going to, that we would rebound. It was an unnecessary downturn. Not that we weren't going to decline, but that how steep that decline was. But to me, guys, the real indication that we have to just admit that what Dave Gettleman did for this team was average at best as a free agent, as a GM now, because none of his draft picks have really been able to stick around. I think he has done great. I thought he did great on managing the salary cap. I thought he did great on prioritizing veterans that he wanted to extend, prioritizing the extension of Cam Newton, prioritizing the KK Short deal, prioritizing Kuechly's extension. He did some really good things there. I don't think he made any mistakes there. For me, though, there's just not a lot of players on his team, on this team, that have either stuck through the draft or that have stepped into a large role with the team.
Oh, I agree. I mean, he came in and he did some good things. I think it's easy to kick somebody when they're gone, just like he pointed out. But I think if you were to give him a grade, I think you give him a C, maybe a C plus. I mean, without Marty Herney's draft picks that still run the show here, he would not have been as successful as he was. And he did some things that I'll never forgive him for. I mean, to me, you did not have to get rid of Josh Norman. You just didn't have to do it. You could have found another way.
Yeah. All right. So here's some news that was given to us in the chat room by Moneybags Lawson. Dante Moncrief expected to sign with the Jacksonville Jaguars. I've confirmed. I just Googled that.
Kidding me.
So no Moncrief for us. And so let's go back. I do think when it comes to Gettleman, the problem with Gettleman is that he was an A student to start. Like he had straight A's his first 3 years, because you think about the Carolina Panthers coming in his first year, going, what were we, 12-4 that year, and with just based on our defense. Then
I don't think he had to get rid of Smitty. I'm not giving him an A for that. I mean, you could argue he needed to, but I don't think he did.
Right. Well, I mean, we had some good performances from 2013 through 2015. And then afterwards, not a lot of success in the draft, not as much as we expected from somebody that we thought was such a football scout at heart. Yeah. So Dante Moncrief's gone. So let's go back and talk just for a moment about the Torrey Smith trade, where we got rid of Daryl Worley for Torrey Smith. Now, this has been a very controversial discussion among Panther fans, And I do think that, you know, without seeing some of the numbers that would later come out about some of these big wide receivers, there were some concerns about taking on a player who you're not sure is going to be a starter or an answer and spending $5 million when you felt like you couldn't spend $2.5 million on a Kirk Coleman at a safety or something like that. So there was some concern about that, but I wrote about this the day that it happened, and to me, what people saw as not making any sense signaled to me that there was something else to it, right? Is that there couldn't have been just this, we don't want Worley, so we're going to take on this guy with this money and this be a problem. So what my theory, what I believed and what I kind of shopped out there in that article, you can go read that on CarolinaCatChronicles.com. It's probably the last one I posted. And that is that maybe there was a sense that you weren't going to be able to compete in free agency for anybody that's all that great at wide receiver, that you could find yourself overpaying, and that this was a fixed cost, that you're going to get a guy who you believe that will be on the roster for that can make the roster, that can make the roster better, and it's at a fixed price. And you know what that price is, and at the very worst case scenario, somebody beats him out for the role, and he plays and he comes in certain spots.
Totally agree. I mean, I think it was a solid. I don't think it was spectacular, but I think it was solid and it was needed. You know, I think it was a prudent move, much like the Brashaud Breeland role or signing. I think these are good, solid, above average type of players that are going to make this team better. He is better than the wide receivers that we had at the end of the year. I mean, Devin Funchess injured. Torrey Smith was better. Healthy Devin Funchess is better than Torrey Smith, but those two together, I think, are going to complement each other quite well.
How do you feel about it, Joey?
I'm okay. You know, not spectacular, but solid moves that the team needed. You know, we didn't have a ton of money to go and blow on big name guys, and that's just not really our style anyway. We've never been a team to go out and do like the Bucks, go out and spend big
at least not since Sean Gilbert.
Right, at least not since Sean Gilbert. Right, that was like our lesson.
Yeah, right.
You know,
one lesson. We're like the one team that learned their lesson.
That's right.
Right. We made the mistake and we've not done it since. Yeah. And I think, honestly, God, I gotta say, I'm happy with what he's done. You know, initially people were kind of, I want to say, upset with the Torrey Smith deal, but now when you look at where the market has gone, it's like, phew, thank God he did it when he did.
Yeah, no kidding.
Right?
There are still some players out there. What do you guys think about some of the free agents that are out there? Like Jordy Nelson just got cut. You got Mike Wallace, got Eric Decker. You know, so and somebody I'm a little bit interested in. You know, here's a player I would sign at a 1-year prove it type of a deal, and that's Cameron Meredith out of Chicago, who did not play last year because of the ACL and MCL, but year before showed a lot of promise.
I think another position we need to really evaluate in free agency is tight end.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
this is something that you've talked about. You've been early to this conversation, Joey, about the tight ends. I feel like this is not new to your position. So tell us where you think this can add to this team, because I think you're really on to something that's realistic.
Well, I think in a couple of different ways. You know, what's his name from Tampa Bay, Brake, re-signed with them, so he's off the board. Burton from Philadelphia got signed today too, so he's off the board. But I think
Jimmy Graham signed with the Packers today.
Remember Cam Newton's rookie year, we had we had Shockey and Greg Olson. And Cam, that offense was just spectacular that year. They were so dangerous, those two together on the field. And I think if we can bring in a tight end that is a good receiver, we can get back to that kind of.
So Joe, would you? I totally agree. Totally agree with you, man. What would you roll the dice on somebody like Tyler Eifert?
I would. You talk about that 1 year prove it deal, right? Yeah. Give them that 1 year deal where you say, look, here's your chance. You know,
I agree, man.
You're going to have an opportunity to come in, show people what you can do, and maybe make some money next year. But this is a perfect offense for him.
But I agree. He would be a great signing. Now, there's another tight end out there, though, that I think there's some connections on the coaching staff.
Yes, exactly. That was my next point, was Richardson from Green Bay. I think he could come in and make an impact and do so as a blocker, too.
Richard Rodgers? Yep.
I'm sorry. Richard Rodgers. Yeah.
Yep. Is he a junior? Is he isn't his dad is a coach for us, right?
Running backs coach.
He's a defensive backs coach.
Defensive backs coach, yeah. Mm-hmm. I knew it was a backfield. Yeah. But yeah, he is a coach, and I think he can come in and contribute.
I agree.
A good blocker as well as a receiver. He's had a big year in 15. 16,
isn't he the one that caught that crazy Hail Mary pass?
Yeah, that's him. Yeah.
And last year he kind of slipped a bit, but I think the potential is there.
Well, look at who was the quarterback last year, though. You got to take that into account for him and the Jordy Nelson.
Point. Very good point, Mel.
You guys heard Jordy Nelson got cut today.
Yeah, I would kick the tires on that for a 1 year.
Yeah, you ain't going to be able to afford him. That dude's going to sign for $13, $14 million right off the bat.
I guarantee the Patriots are already calling.
They said that he's talking to the Raiders and the Patriots is the two
teams. If you give him that much money, you're overpaying for him.
He's 33 years old.
Is he that old?
Yeah.
Yes.
Wow, I didn't realize that.
And he really has roster stuff. He cannot separate like he could in the past.
Yeah. I think now, just to go back to, and look, Moneybags Lawson just read my mind here. He said, the Khalils are holding us hostage. And the one thing that you go back is that where it looks like, look, Green Bay parted with Jordy Nelson to go get another older guy in Jimmy Graham. But so they got rid of Rodgers. They added Jimmy Graham, and they cut bait with Jordy Nelson, who was going to be a $10 million. I think they saved about $10 million, roughly what Ryan Khalil is going to make for the Panthers at center. Matt Khalil, you can't do anything about his contract. His contract is his contract. That's what it is, unless you tried to renegotiate and extend it, actually, which – I don't think the Panthers necessarily need to do that at this point. I think you just kind of suck it up for another year, see where you're at after next year. But Ryan Khalil, boy, he could really do us a solid, could he? And restructure his contract so that we pay him some in 2019 and he still retires.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not on the boat of cutting him, but I am on the boat of trying to renegotiate and bring his cap number down somehow, some way. Totally. You could save $5-6 million if you do it right.
That's where we need Dave Gettleman at. Dave Gettleman, man, he would make it. He could get your contract. He got Charles Johnson. He got everybody to spread their money out when we needed to. So, all right. And any other topics of? Oh, Mel wanted to talk about the ownership before we go.
Well, yeah. I mean, being that Wednesdays are such a big news
like
day.
Tomorrow somebody's going to buy the Panthers.
Watch. If not tomorrow, then a week from tomorrow. It's going to happen. It's going to happen soon. But there are 6 bidders out there, so they're saying, and The one I'm most excited about, other than, of course, you would want to keep it local, and I like the idea of Felix Sabatis and the Bruton Smith group and those folks having ties here. You know, I don't necessarily love what they have to say about getting a new stadium and maybe moving it down to Carowinds and doing a dome. I think that's crap. But I want somebody who's going to come in and say, hey, we're committed to Charlotte. But you've got this some other guys with some deep pockets. You know, you got this Tepper guy who's a hedge fund guy who's got $11 billion net worth. So that's the kind of guy that has the deep pockets like a Jerry Jones.
Yeah. Dude, he could buy the Panthers twice.
I know, right? So and he could write
still
the check.
have like $7 billion left.
Billions left over.
But my favorite right now, and I wanted to know more about the guy, but Ruben, who is the owner of the fan site Fanatics, right? That a lot of NFL gear that you buy off of there. He's worth $3 billion, and they say he's young. He's 45 years old. They say players love him. He's a minority owner in the Steelers, I believe it is.
No, the Philadelphia 76ers and I think the New Jersey Devils or something like that.
Okay. And they say that he's got the same type of personality. You've heard me say before, I just love Mark Cuban, and I love the passion. And I know you got to be careful about that. But I want an owner, I love Jerry Richardson for what he did putting us on the map. But I want an owner that really obviously cares, that is excited, that's up there jumping and slapping the windows during the game and things like that. And this is the guy that's got that type of a temperament. So he would be an exciting option.
It says Tepper is also the minority owner of the Steelers, is what
Slim
J said.
Yeah, I got that backwards. Tepper is the 5% owner of the Steelers.
Would he have to sell that?
I believe he would. Yeah.
I mean, now just a quick social commentary on 11 billionaires. That's a freaking insane amount of money. Like he's making more on his interest every year than I'll dream to make. He makes more in interest in a day, Mel, than you will ever make. And he's worth, like, not only could he buy anything he wanted, like he could buy countries, he could buy armies, he could buy planets.
The professor?
Oh, dude, totally for sale. Total for sale. I mean, that's just such an insane amount of money. And you know what's even crazier about it is he ain't done shit but gamble with our money. Like, he is a freaking genius. This is what I always tell my students. If you want to guarantee to never, ever lose, be a banker or an insurance company, because even when you lose, it ain't even like it's theirs anyway. You ain't lost jack. You ain't squat. I just think it's so crazy. And I'm not saying that I think that these people need to be knocked down a peg in society. I'm not saying that. I know Joe's about ready to pop a cap in my ass over that mess.
No, I'm not. I know you're not saying that.
I just think that that's such a crazy, it's just unfathomable to me what a lifestyle could be like, or what your lifestyle is like. When it's not like you're not even just not worried about money. Like, you're not, I mean, you have so much money, you do whatever you want. Like anything. I mean, you could be a great person, you could be a terrible person, you could be both. Really crazy.
You can be a terribly great person.
So it's going to be interesting. It's and who knows? It could be some. I heard the MMA guys backed out, right? But this Ruben guy is somebody who the other owners.
I want Tepper. I want an 11 billionaire, dude.
I want somebody who really cares, though. I mean, and maybe he does, but a hedge fund manager, maybe. I don't know.
Like, if you're an 11 billionaire, I expect like one game you to be like, I want to be at a Carolina Panthers game where he just gets on the mic and goes, "This round is on me," to the whole stadium. And
But
you know,
I don't think that's how we got to be a billionaire, though. I think he'll get on the intercom and say, "The next round is double if you don't get there in the next 5 minutes."
no. At some point, you gotta just.
Well, that's our mentality. Is that Tepper's? That's the point.
Yes. When you're an 11 billionaire, you better buy the bar drinks. That's all I gotta say. If you if you split the check with me and you're an 11 billionaire, you're gonna get 11 billion punches in the face.
That's true.
I'm gonna tell my boy Joey to pop 11 billion caps in your ass.
It would be nice to have some really deep pockets running the show.
God, yeah, that would be crazy. All right, let's jump into the cat calls, guys. Before we do that, I do want to mention to you guys that you can participate in the show by calling the cat calls line, which is open every week, 24/7. The number is 252-228-5098, where we want to hear your voice and feature your fan take on this podcast, because this is the podcast where we really are just fans together. That's it. No expertise claims by me. In fact, I would say I generally lean on the chat room for all my advice about the show. So you can continue to make this show better by just picking up the phone, calling, and leaving a message. We appreciate that. Go ahead and smash that thumbs up button if you're just tuning in, and subscribe. We gotta accumulate those subscribers, because this is the #1 Panthers fan podcast, and really just the only consistent Panthers podcast, because we do it every week regardless if people are listening. So that's what we do, guys. Let's jump into these cat calls. Cody, disappointed, bro. Disappointed.
So what are your thoughts on catcalling?
Yeah, it's pretty. You shouldn't do that to somebody.
And how did that make you feel?
Very uncomfortable.
So how do you think catcalling makes the person feel?
It feels good, like.
Who's that cat sitting in the back corner with his face buried in his nose? Who's that kid that can use one?
Hey, what's up, y'all? This is Gerard Green, a fellow Carolina Panther fan, born and raised in Jacksonville, North Carolina. Quick question. This is just my opinion. Do you guys think, this is my opinion, do you guys think that the GM, he's back and everything like that, do you think that he will give up next year's first to get another first round this year in this year's draft? Because, he had a reputation of doing that back in the day. That's just a question I have. I love the show. Keep pounding.
Mel, I'll turn that to you first.
I don't see him gambling that big on another first rounder. However, we do have 2 third-round picks this year. So I do see some movement. He is a guy that likes to move around in that second and third round area. So I would not be surprised at all to see him package those 2 threes and move back up into the second round. However, I would be a fan of that move if you did something like package a 3 and a 2 to move back into the first, something like that. I would not do next year's first, but something towards the back end, because there's some real value of getting back into the first round and having 5 years on that rookie contract as opposed to 4. So it's definitely something to think about and keep your eye on. I think Marty is more apt to move around than Gettleman was.
Yeah, I think Gettleman did like to do the trades in the mid rounds. Right. If you remember, one of the people that Cody was mentioning was a plus for Gettleman was Devin Funchess. I mean, he moved up for Devin Funchess, which I still think was an unnecessary movement at that time. But you got the guy you wanted. They overthought that idea that you needed these giant receivers with Cam Newton a little bit too much. I think they invested a little bit too much in that. But I don't see us, again, I'm with you, Mel, in that I don't know if there's enough talent that I love in this draft class in the first round that
but there are players like Geis out of LSU, that running back. If you've got an opportunity to move up a little bit and assure that you get him, I would be all about that. I would take our first and one of our thirds and move up maybe 4 or 5 spots, something like that, if you could, to ensure getting him.
Yeah, get him, or I mean, you might have Nick Chubb sitting there at 24, and you just take him and move on. But I do think you're right. I think you could, while there might not be any great standouts in round 1, and that are really realistic, unless we moved into the top 10, is that, you know, there might be some real guys that could help in round 2. That maybe some shorter movements could help. Joe, where are you at on it?
I think that what you.
I think Joey said, "Screw you, Marty Herney," and left.
Yeah. He's like the rest of Panther Nation on Twitter today. He's like, I'm out of here. I'm done with this crap.
And Maurice Phillips, I say yes, Chubb is better than Sony Michel, but that's me. All right, let's keep going with these calls.
All right, the Chicago kid back on the air because I enjoyed hearing my own voice so much last week. I've replayed it like 15 times. But
at least he's
the
honest.
reason I'm calling back, I was coasting into the city from the suburbs from a long day at work, and I heard the discussion about barbecue from a place that does not know how to do barbecue.
There you go.
Southerner, I live in a place that does not know how to do barbecue. And people are like, oh, yeah, you should go to this place. It's great barbecue. And I try it, and I'm like, this is garbage. Straight garbage. So let's give props to where it's due. Texas, yeah, do your thing. Carolinas, we have different types, South Carolina and North Carolina, but they're both pretty damn good. Tennessee, I'll give you a mention. Kansas City, for sure. St. Louis, if you guys haven't had St. Louis barbecue, it's pretty damn good, too. And I make a point to search for spots that are run by the few Southerners that are up here to dine. I'll give a shout-out to Luella's Southern Kitchen on Lincoln Avenue in Chicago. If you come to Chicago, go to Luella's. Outside of that, it's kind of like me bringing someone down south and saying, hey, I'm going to treat you to the best deep dish pizza you've ever had. No, it's not going to happen. So, Anyway, that's my 2 cents on the barbecue. Also, props to McCaffrey for not only being an easily likable football player and having a great rookie season, but apparently being a superhero as well.
There you go.
Saving an elderly man from falling off of a mountain or something like that. So props to McCaffrey. As far as the draft, free agency, I'm looking forward to what we do. I like pretty much all the suggestions you guys came up with as far as the draft this week, and I'm excited to see what we do. So obviously, much better mood today. Traffic wasn't bad. Had to defend the barbecue, which is a necessity and a responsibility as a Southerner and especially a Carolinian. So keep pounding, boys. Let's go.
Right on. Good call.
Hello, Chronicle Nation. How y'all doing today? This is Carl D. How's it going tonight, Tony?
Fantastic, Carl.
Mail and the mean one himself, Joey.
The mean one.
So how are we doing tonight?
He's
doing
so
good,
mean
buddy.
he quit the show.
That's right.
Tony, about the acquisition of Torrey Smith, the trade Worley to Torrey Smith. Do you think that was, in your opinion, not just you, Tony, but everybody, do y'all think that was a good acquisition? I think it was pretty decent. It was fair as a one-on-one trade. I mean, because, Worley was off and on and, well.
Yeah, I think it was a good trade. I think it was a good trade.
Yeah.
One thing I would like, with all this free agency, get ready to start booming tomorrow after 4 o'clock. I'm hoping Herney got one more trick up his sleeve to at least give us some type of a good free agent. But he is Marty Herney, so I'm likely to doubt that. In regards with the draft, you guys tell me about that tight end from Penn State. I mean, if nobody is really those wide receivers are not really worth anything, how about us taking a chance on that tight end from Penn State? I can't think of his name right now. Taking a chance on him. And hey, him and Greg Olsen that would be one heck of a tender. That'll make up for
Mike
Gesicki. Yeah.
You know, the explosive wide receiver.
He showed out at the combine.
Weapon that Cam can throw to and big target. So
that's not a bad idea.
Let me know what you think. And as usual, will be in the comments section with you guys. And until next week, keep pounding.
All right. A good call, Carl D. All right, Gesicki, tell us a little. Do you got any insight on him?
Well, he's a big dude. I mean, he's 6'6", 250. You know, so he's a big guy, and he really showed out at the combine. I mean, he did not have, mind-blowing numbers in college. I mean, he had 560-something yards, I believe it was, 50-something receptions. So solid, but, I mean, he just reminds people of Gronkowski, I think it is. But he is somebody that I would, I'm not real sure where I would take him, maybe round 2. I'm not sure exactly where he's projected to go, but he is a guy I would have my eye on, and I think he would make Joe really happy to bring him in and pair him up with Greg Olsen and be the heir apparent. I mean, he's definitely athletic. He's definitely big. So Carl D's onto something there.
It says this, that he led, Mike Gesicki returns as Big Ten's leader among returning tight ends in yards per route. This was in July of 2017. He had a good junior season, and he comes in and plays on a team where, he says he ran a 4.54 40-yard dash. He's 6'6".
At 250. I mean, that's Cam Newton. That's Cam Newton's size, really.
Yeah, he's got a lot of size, and it seems like this dude has some real hands. You're talking one-handed catches in double coverage, deep ball catches. So, that is something that you could be looking to, that maybe you get a surprise pick somewhere in there, and that could be a guy that's not necessarily a surprise, but we get so locked in on need that we kind of forget. We get overwhelmed by that. You get lost in the need for a wide receiver in free agency and a need for safety, and the Panthers open up with a corner,
Right. And I just caution, I'm not sure I would take him in round 1, but, he probably will rise up kind of like an O.J. Howard did last year for Tampa. But, Howard was not a huge impact with the Bucs. He's a solid player and with a bright future. But if you're looking for an immediate impact, I would take Gesicki in round 2. He may not be there, though. He might be gone before the end of round 2, which is where we pick. But he good solid player.
Welcome back, Joey.
Yeah, sorry about that. I wanted to. I listened to you say something, Tony, right there when I jumped back on. I want to kind of expound on that, talking about how we're so taken up with finding a receiver or a safety. I think part of the reason is because we've needed those positions forever.
Yeah.
We've needed to find that one receiver or that one safety that completes the unit. You know what I'm saying? And
we've never had an answer there. We've never had an answer since Moose and Steve Smith.
Right.
Right, and we've just been looking and looking and looking, and it's sort of taken over our entire scope of your team. And that's sort of why I think you see so many people focused on safety and receiver. But there are definitely other positions that you have to maintain and address and keep strong.
Yeah, I think one other reason too, or one other thing that is why Panther fans are particularly restless. I feel like we're abnormally restless this free agency. And not that you always get those murmurs, why aren't we doing anything? Why aren't we doing anything? When we had $12 million in cap space, we understood why we weren't doing anything. When you had 21 free agents that you had to release, we understood that you could only do so much, And then, but I think this is that I think there's a certain anxiety that Panther fans have now, knowing that there's some real question marks at safety, wide receiver, as well as defensive end. And those are just on the surface of questions. So, as I think that the reason you're getting that backlash is a certain anxiety that's associated with it. So, all right, guys, that's about all for tonight. We are gonna do. We are gonna do one other thing, which is I had what I thought was a particularly good run on Twitter over the last day. Clapping about myself. I want to feature 3 of my tweets that were meant as a little get fans riled up just a little bit. And one of the reasons that the name of this show is Father Free Agency was because of this tweet. Guys, you can't see that. Joe and Mel, you can't see this, but you probably saw me tweet it. I said, it helps to think of the Carolina Panthers as your mother screaming that your free agency father is a worthless, unreliable asshole who won't show up on Wednesday either. Maybe his ass might show up 2 weeks late after you've been crying yourself to sleep. So I thought that was a pretty good tweet about the temperature of Panther fans. Or this one, being a Panthers fan in free agency is like being a kid who is Jehovah's Witness at school when they celebrate kids' birthdays. Is that a jealousy donut there? And last, this is the one Mel dissociates himself from. They're talking about the anxiety that Panther fans have. And I said, being a Panthers fan in free agency is like a girl who lost her virginity waiting on a period. You are waiting and waiting and waiting, and you are nervous, my friend. So that's my feature tweets for the week, guys. You can find more of that snarkiness and fun at @cat_chronicles. We appreciate your follow and your support. Also, I encourage everybody to subscribe to the show, smash that thumbs up button, and even consider donating. You can donate via PayPal, Patreon, or just as on the website. Just find the donate button, or it's in the show notes. Guys, let's jump in and ice some mugs up. This is really the longest running session of the show. This is like one of our first little bits that we did, and it's stuck. It's our homage to Steve Smith, where we tell someone in the world to ice up, to toughen up, to get it together, and everyone's fair game. Who wants to start this week?
I'll go.
It's Panthers and free agency crickets. Okay.
Low hanging fruit. I'm icing up Kim Jong-un.
Okay.
North Korean dictator. Just all the grandstanding and smack talking and threats. Just, idle threats he would make toward us, and all that stuff. And lo and behold, he's now talking about sitting down and getting into talks with President Trump. And this should have been what he did right off the rip. The country's in shambles. They're desperate for so many things there. And it's foolishness. Absolute foolishness. And who suffers? The people. The people he's supposed to be presiding over and representing and taking care of. They're the ones that suffer. And I'm icing him up for just being a complete idiot. A real a real candidate for assassination just for the benefit of his people. But at least he's coming to the table now. I just hate that it took so long and how many people had to suffer and die while he was grandstanding. So I up Kim Jong-un.
All right. Mel, you ready to clap back at that after we ice up? Well, here's our collective ice up. Ice up Kim Jong-un.
Ice up. Right on. No, well done, Joe. I totally agree. Yeah, we've been hinting at this all night, but I wanted to make the point and make this my ice up son candidate for the night. I mean, I think it was just less than a month ago when we were looking at GM candidates, and people were so against Marty Herney being the GM because he spent like a drunken sailor was the sentiment. He did not know how to manage the cap. He was throwing money around at everybody. And, you know, I was telling people, hey, give the guy a shot. I really like Herney. And now, all of a sudden, I mean, you're mad at him, Panther Nation, for not spending or for spending too much money. Now free agency's rolling around. The official free agency hasn't even started yet. And I'll read you a tweet. I won't call the person's name out, but I mean, this was one of many similar tweets throughout the day. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for me to effing rage here. The F-head, now, and this is cleaned up, right? But he says the F-head, who we call our general manager, can't even get Cameron Newton a reliable weapon. Nah, he's just sitting there with his fingers up his effing A. I'm done with these dumb A's that GMs that the Panthers hire. I mean, a little dramatic there. I mean, a little quick on the trigger there, don't you think? And this is a sentiment running rampant on Twitter of, oh my gosh, how come we have not signed everybody that's out there? Guys, you don't win the Super Bowl in March by going out and signing Sammy Watkins for $16 million. You just don't do it. Or Paul Richardson for $8 million. That is not what's going to make you a Super Bowl team. We have our core. We have Cam Newton. So I'm here to tell you, as long as you got Cam Newton, as long as you got Luke Kuechly, you have a shot. So you got to be smart with your money, pay who it makes sense, and make smart, prudent moves, and quit being armchair general managers that are always so Debbie Downer on your team. This is supposed to be fun. I mean, you watch these guys are jumping off buildings so just desperately pissed at the Panthers. Why, people? This is a fun part of your life. Enjoy it. Marty Herney 2.0 is doing a really good job so far. Sit back, support him. I mean, it's just like folks that did not vote for Donald Trump that wish him to fail. You wish him to fail, you're wishing your country to fail. And guess what? I did not vote for Donald Trump, but I wish him success. I'm praying that he does right and handles the things with Kim Jong-un properly, because if he's successful, we're successful. It's the same thing with the Panthers. If Marty Herney's successful, we're all successful. So for Panther Nation that is just chomping at the bit to bash Marty Herney at every turn, ice up.
That's the stupidest thing I ever heard.
No, are you referring to me or to
I'm sorry. It's like no, I agree with you. Is that I am not down on Marty Herney. Sure, do you want fresh blood, some things like that? I can understand people who want that. I don't think though you can trash on Marty Herney's draft record, but so much. So we'll see. I mean, like, hey, this is what we got right now. When you get a new owner.
But the point is, shouldn't you want him to be successful, or are you going into the draft wanting him to screw it up so he'll be gone?
Yeah, right. I generally am not rooting for my team to suck.
I mean, that's a good rule.
I'm usually rooting for my country and those people to be successful. Now, am I, like, for instance, like you said with Donald Trump, do I think that they're doing a good job? Not necessarily, but I get your sentiment. My ice up pick, I do want to give I think my ice up pick is, I was gonna ice up this guy that my kids and my wife, they've been, my son and my wife are remarkably musical people. You know, they got these little angel voices. They can sing, and it's really annoying to people who can't sing being around people who can sing, and then all they do is sing. Like, I mean, at some point you're like, we got it. Like, I mean, they're in the car.
Just belt it out, man. Just belt it out, sing it, and just let it go like nobody's watching, man.
Boy, they're in the car. They're in the car having a dang concert, you know, and it's 6:30 in the morning, and you're, you know, but God bless them and their passion and all of this. So in our house, though, I have young children. We've been watching the return of American Idol because my little girls and stuff like, I mean, it's fun. You know, it's right after we watch every night as a family when we are at home. We go Wheel of Fortune, Jeopardy, and now my kids have been trying to squeak one more show in. So this is better than like Fuller House for them. But so some guy, Katy Perry has the most amazing personality. Like she is like awesome. Really awesome. A cool freaking person. And she's just funny and all of these so she kind of had crush eyes and was like flirting with this dude. And my man had a girlfriend. His girlfriend came in and staked a claim and kissed her, and I was just like, good God, I want to ice him up for not just dropping her and running over to Katy Perry.
Yeah, it's like, dude, it's Katy Perry. Right?
What about almost seeing Katy Perry's butt? That was amazing. Instead, it was a big, huge American Idol thing. But in relation, the reason I brought up American Idol, other than I just want to talk Katy Perry for a second, is something that was going on that I did not watch, but I have read about at the same time, and it's this reveal of the O.J. Simpson Lost Confession, some production that Fox was putting on that they filmed in 2006. Now, must have just been, this happened in 2006. I was in graduate school, and when I started graduate school, there was about 2.5 years where I checked out, where I barely had time to watch any sports, I was just working like a maniac for school and work and all of that jazz. So this must have happened. This book, that is If I Did It, period, a book that was released by O.J. Simpson, a hypothetical murder scenario where he killed Ron Goldman and was it Nicole Simpson? And he comes out and they played this interview, and I've just watched some clips of it, but he said something to the effect of like this, is that he said, as things got heated, I just remember Nicole fell and hurt herself, and this guy got into a karate thing, and he said that the confrontation escalated, and he said, well, do you think you can kick my ass? And I do remember that portion taking the knife from Charlie, he says. And then he goes on and basically says that he remembers a lot of blood and stuff. And then it's like he laughs in the process, ha 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 ha, hypothetically. Yeah. And then he slips in, hypothetically, occasionally. What if you described to your wife like the birthmark of a woman on the inside of her thigh and how deliciously juicy and tasty she was, and then said, hypothetically, you think your wife would be like, yeah, you hypothetically had sex with my best friend? Well, even if it's hypothetical, your wife would freaking murder you. Right? Talking about murder. So O.J. Simpson, what a complete and utter, I mean, I guess murderers are by defect assholes, but like, what kind of nonsense is this? I just think that at this, I don't get it. I don't get anything about it. There's nothing to get. All I gotta say to you is ice up O.J. You mugs who cheered for O.J. being free back in the day, y'all got to take it back. You got to say, I was wrong. I let the division of the nation overwhelm my judgment in this case because O.J. was a damn murderer. That's what I say to you. All of that, ice up.
Totally agree, man.
God, what kind of crap is that hypothetically? If I hypothetically murdered the woman that I was charged with murdering the woman for, that I got off because I hired a legal team that ran circles around basically a DNA evidence in its infancy. You know, like, whatever.
He's mentally ill, man. I mean,
yeah, there's something there that's not right. I mean, but murderers also mentally ill, granted, you know. So that's what I got for you guys, dude. That's the show. It's the C3 podcast brought to you by CarolinaCatChronicles.com, where every Tuesday night we chop up the latest Panthers news and opinions from the fan perspective. Been doing it now for over five seasons now, right? It's pretty legit, and I do it with my best homeboys. Joe Riolano, how can they get after you on Twitter?
Guys, you can find me on Twitter at Joe Riolano.
Mel Mayock, our resident draft guru, best bud, Queen City representative. Where can they follow you on Twitter?
That's me on Twitter at Panthers Drafter. And Draft Tech, there's a new mock draft coming out every Wednesday. So go check it out, see who we got. And the draft party, make your plans, circle it on your calendar, plan on joining us, be a part of the show, be a part of the fun. Be our 6th annual.
I'd like to thank Lynn, Legacy Lions Lynn. You can follow her on Twitter for supporting the podcast. I'd like to thank everybody in the chat room for supporting the podcast, those who call in, as well as Mike Frazier, who continues to be a major supporter of this podcast. We appreciate. That's not the stupidest thing I ever heard. Supporting our podcast is not the dumbest thing I've ever heard. That's what an autoplay does. Look, Mike Frazier, we appreciate your support, longtime listener. There's a lot of people out there that have been listening, calling, support, and we appreciate it. Let's keep this up in the off season, and we'll see you next Tuesday night.
And I'll keep pounding.